Hey, everybody. Welcome to our free webinar tonight. My name is Jaime Spencer, also known as Miss Jaime OT, and I'm so excited to be here tonight with Sonia's story. This is going to be a whopper tonight, you guys. I mean, I'm really excited because you're definitely going to come away with two specific strategies that you can add to your OT toolbox that can help your children. And I don't want to be an exaggerator or anything, but like this basically is helping with everything. When I looked at your case studies, Sonia, on your website, I'm just floored more and more. And I mean, we've been involved in the past, and I've interviewed people who have taken your course, and it's just mind boggling. So I'm so excited. Look, I already got off on a tangent. Um, those of you guys who are joining us, we've already got 83 people on, and it's not even a minute into it. I'm so appreciative. Thank you so much for giving up a Tuesday night to join us and hang out with us. We are going to geek out. If you love science and you love neuro, or if you love magic, you're in the right place tonight. So while we're waiting for everybody else to register to come on, we had a lot of people register tonight. Can you guys in the comments, please just let us know where you are and what you are. Are you an OT, a teacher? Are you a physical therapist? Are you a parent? We've got a lot of parents who have taken Sonia's course with great success. So what we're going to do tonight is kind of give a snippet of Sonia's very intense and robust course. But in that snippet, you'll be coming away with two strategies that you can use, whether or not you decide that the course is for you or not. But I'm very excited about it. So I'm going to just go over to these comments. We've got lots of people commenting. We've got DD Call from Columbus, Ohio. Okay, so tons of you guys, it says Facebook user. So if you're on Facebook, can you do me a favor and go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and just hit yes that we can see your name, because we are giving away a prize, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But I want to be able to see your name. Plus, as you guys are commenting, I want to be able to answer you and not be like rude Facebook user. So like I can see Nicole P is from California. We've got an OT and a parent from Fort Worth, Texas. We've got people from all over the place. So Sonia, why don't you introduce yourself and just give everybody a little bit of your background? Because I, like in the past, when I first met you and found out about your course, I was like, oh, she must be an OT, but you're not an OT.
I am not. I started out in just with a general undergraduate degree, and I studied biology and psychology. Much later in life, I got involved. I'd already had two children, one who was hypersensitive. She had a traumatic birth, and the other who was hyperactive. And the two together were just so challenging because they were always triggering each other. And I myself had inattention, anxiety, and sensory issues, but I didn't know it because for me that was just normal life. That was my default. And I was searching for things to help my children, and I had always been wanting to like help them not get in arguments. And so I taught them things like nonviolent communication and things like that. And those tools are wonderful, but I realized they don't work if you're triggered. Like if you're
Right.
Yeah. So when I found these tools, I actually read a book and learned about them in a book. I started using a little bit, and I was just amazed because it dealt with the nervous system, and the movement directly dealt with the nervous system. So I was like, it was like magic. For me, it was absolutely life changing. And I just applied one little thing, and my kids were completely different. I couldn't believe it.
It
So,
does make so much sense though when you go into it, and you
mhm.
will, of course, but it just makes so much sense.
It makes so much sense. And the more I learned, the more it made sense. And the more I learned, the more I was truly in awe of these movements. So most of what I teach is based on what infants do in the womb, early infancy, and through toddlerhood. And these directly impact the nervous system because they
Mhm.
come from the nervous system. They're
Right.
actually innately hardwired into us. And so when I started learning these tools, I just was so, I just completely fell in love. And I ended up taking over 50 courses in neurodevelopmental movement.
Wow, 50 courses. I thought I was a dork.
Oh, well, and I just loved it so much. And some of them were repeat courses because with movement, it always makes sense to repeat. And then I was getting my teacher certifications in different programs and things like that. And all along, I just kept going, we got to get this out to people. And because and then I also met so many OTs. And there were two OTs in particular that I met, and they didn't know each other. They were from different parts of the country, but they both had adopted a child from Russia who had enormous challenges with behavior, of course, because they've had a traumatic background. They
Right.
have all kinds of sensory issues, behavior issues, all kinds of things. And both of them said it was the rhythmic movements that helped them the most. And they had tried everything.
That's
And
awesome.
that really got my attention. And I was just so fascinated with that because I had initially got my training in brain gym. So I did all the courses to get my licensure with that. And then I went to rhythmic movement training, which was a combination of rhythmic movements and primitive reflexes. But before in the brain gym, I had already been exposed to how important the reflexes were.
Right.
I couldn't believe how so I when I went to the rhythmic movement training, I was just like, yay, this is about reflexes. And I didn't even really pay much attention to the rhythmic movements. But later I found out because all these parents and OTs were saying, oh yeah, this is amazing. And I had only just given them the rhythmic movements because like some of these kids were so hypersensitive and so in a fight or flight state and so easily agitated that we couldn't even get to the reflexes yet. But yet I was getting all this feedback from parents
Yeah.
saying, oh my gosh, my child is sleeping better, eating better. Um, they're not as emotionally volatile, all that.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just I don't know if it's COVID, we always say like, "Oh, nowadays everything's changed. It's just getting worse and worse." But I'm just seeing, and I don't also know if it's an economical thing. Are our schools keeping children who normally might have been sent to a different school? But I definitely see what you're talking about. And I have whole classes of children who all have their own significant difficulties. So that's why I'm just so excited, and I thank you so much for coming and being willing to share this information with my VIPs who I love, and
Mhm.
we're gonna learn a lot. So I just want to give some shout outs. We've got Jess Hudnall from Fort Wayne, Christina Bloom Levos from Kittytown, um, Malaysia, hello OT, Colorado. We've got Allison Hoover, who's a COTA in Kansas. We've got so many people with us tonight, and I'm so excited about that. Josh Lieberman, hey man, he's right, he's my neighbor.
How fun.
Heidi Saville, we've got Sherry Taylor. Awesome. I'm so excited. So, I had mentioned before, guys, if you are on Facebook and you made a comment and you see that it says Facebook user, just please go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and just say, yes, Miss Jamie can see my name, because then if you have a question or a comment or whatever, I can see who is saying it. Okay. And let's get moving. You guys ready?
Well, Jamie, I'm just going to say one more thing about my background because I
Okay.
since went to graduate school, and kind of after I got all this training, and I got one more assignment, and I'm just about graduated. But the fun thing about it has been that I've been able to really look back at the whole history of primitive reflex integration research, a little bit with rhythmic movement, but there's not a lot. It's like this whole area where the research is like ripe to do research. And then I kind of put it together and different things. And you have something that you can share with everyone about that because I've shown you that. But
Mhm.
I'm just so excited because there is really good supporting evidence and research for this. So,
Which is humongous because, I don't know if you remember, well, you weren't an OT, but when I first came into the field 100 years ago, they were trying to get research to prove that sensory was a thing. Like, people were not open to hearing it. And it was really stressful because these kids just needed help. and we weren't supposed to be doing sensory, so it is wonderful when it's something like this where it's really hard to get the research, when it starts to come together, and you're doing an amazing job with that, so congratulations.
Yeah, and I'm thankful for all the research out there,
Yeah.
the researchers out there who've been working on this, and there's a 40-year history, so at least maybe longer. But I'm sure it's longer. But anyway, uh,
So
go ahead.
tonight we are going to be getting into what are neurodevelopmental movements, and what are the long-term effects when there's a lack of them in infancy. So
Mhm.
Sonia's going to go into that for us. She kind of just touched on it a little bit, but it made me think right away of my own daughter, because when I was pregnant, I had intrauterine growth restriction, so she couldn't move around. So
Oh,
I think it's really interesting to hear what are the effects of that. And we're also going to have you describe one solution to address inattention, anxiety, and sensory disorders. That's going to be our objectives. I think you're going to come away with way more than one, but it is only an hour, so we'll see how we get there.
sounds good.
Um, okay, so let's move forward. So our prize tonight is we are going to be giving one lucky winner the Neuromat. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. It is pretty cool. Do you want to explain a little bit about it, Sonia?
Well, the shape is in an 8, and a lot of children with issues, challenges, and various things, it's really hard for them to do this. But it's very organizing for them, and it can be also very calming. So there's something particular about that infinity shape that is helpful for organization. And so the dots are color coded, so you can make up all kinds of games with it. And there's a sheet in there that shows you how to use it. But yeah, the woman who developed this, I think she is an OT, but she was saying that every time she would go, to be with her kids, she would always be rigging something up so that they could go in this 8 pattern. And she said,
Yeah.
finally, she's just like, I'm just going to make this great mat. And so
I
she,
think she I
yeah.
think she's a special ed teacher. I'm
Okay,
sorry, I didn't
so
mean to
good.
interrupt you. When I was researching her and I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah.
Oh, Suzanne Simons Warnalis, definitely one of my VIPs, is saying a lot of my students have infinity symbols to trace on their desks. That's a great
Yeah.
idea. So, Suzanne, did you do it with did you laminate it and put it on their desk, or did you do it with like painter's tape? And someone, Crystal Gentry, is saying, I used to just draw a huge figure 8 on the floor. I did it with painter's tape, but it didn't look nice like this does. So I'm excited. This will be our giveaway. So here's the deal. To win the giveaway, you've got to stay till the end and comment, you guys. The more you comment, the higher your chance of winning the Neuromat. And we'll be giving the Neuromat to one person and mailing it to you free of charge. It is valued at $65. I think it's on sale right now for $65. And we'll just be sending it to you. So you'll come away from this webinar with lots of great tips and tricks, but also a fun new tool in your overflowing trunk of tricks. A lot of people are like, oh, that looks cool. That's awesome. Very fun. Okay. Let's get moving. So remember what I said. In order to win the Neuromat, you've got to stay till the end and you've got to keep commenting. I want to see your name. Okay. Take it away, Sonia.
Okay. So the neurodevelopmental movements, as I explained, that's my umbrella term for all these different categories of infant movements. But as I explained, they're innate movements. But the cool thing about them is that they do so much. And some of them, at least the rhythmic movements, are incredibly simple. So, but without them, we cannot mature the brain, body, and sensory systems. So many children have missed out on them. And the main categories are the infant reflexes, and there are primitive and postural reflexes, developmental movements, and then the innate rhythmic movements. There are other categories, but those are the main ones that we focus on and that we include in a larger course. But you can see all the things that they do. They're responsible for brain development, sensory motor development, language development, and our ability to focus. The ability to be still, pay attention, focus, those are all there has to be a certain level of brain maturity to get those skills, and you have to use movement to get them. That's how our brains get those skills, is through movement. And that's why we come with innate movements. That's why they're hardwired into us, is because they help us function. They also help us with our upright posture and core strength, which is really important to keep in mind for the next slide.
So I have a couple of comments that I have to comment on.
Oh,
Someone, Crystal Gentry just said, "Oh, Crystal, because of Miss Jamie OT, I've been wanting to take courses to be an OT. It's one of my plans. And hearing
oh,
Sonia's story, it's encouraging." That's awesome,
good.
Crystal. OT is the best job around. And Amy Schaffner just said they are simple to do and incorporate into a classroom setting. So I think Amy must be one of your former students.
Great.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amy. Yeah, so let's keep that upright posture and core strength in mind when we look at this slide, because this is so, I love these photos. I got them from my friend
I do
Kathleen
too.
Porter. And the reason I love them is because they so clearly point to the fact that these challenges that children have started a long time ago. And they started with the lack of neurodevelopmental movements, which means obviously the babies who are slumped, they lack their alignment, they lack their core strength, they lack their ability to focus more and engage with their environment because they get tired. Um, and they don't have enough room for their organs to grow. They don't have enough room to take a big, deep breath. So they're really compromised from the beginning. And it's really sad because that affects their future development. So, what we're doing with these neurodevelopmental movements is we're coming, you can do the next slide, Jamie. We're coming at it from a place of like, rather than let this keep happening, because you can see like a slumped baby becomes a slumped child.
Right.
Um, can we bring these into the child to help them? And so you can see that there really is a crisis in our children's development, not just their development, but their whole, like, their ability to be free of anxiety. And it's rooted in the fact that they don't have their proper physical development or brain and sensory development. So you can see the research there. 1 in 6 children have a neurodevelopmental disability. And that doesn't even count the kids who don't have like a specific, diagnosis, which
Right.
there's so many of those. And
Yeah.
then, this study just is so shocking that came out of the UK, where they had 120 school children. These were not children in a special school, but they found that only 3 of them did not have motor abnormalities, and they were checking for the primitive reflexes.
Tanya Judd McCarr just said container babies.
Yes, exactly. A lot of it has to do with our cultural practices.
Yeah.
And, babies need to be on their bellies right from the get go. And then there are some things, like really unfortunate things, like, you mentioned your daughter having restricted movement. Our second daughter had that because I had to go on bed rest, which is another thing where the babies don't get stimulation. So
Right.
we definitely had to work on things.
There's just so many reasons that it could have happened. There's
Yeah,
just no rhyme or reason.
there's so many.
So this is like, oh, wow.
Yes, and again, all these come from Kathleen Porter. She's a natural posture expert, and she and I just fell in love with each other because our work melds into one another so much. Because she knew also it was from the baby movements that do the work of the proper alignment and posture in infancy. So the point of this slide is just that we do have to intervene, because
Yeah.
motor deficits are carried from infancy into childhood, and we don't grow out of them. And there you can see the research. The
I
research.
I I have like a bad habit, and I don't mean it in any way, shape, or form to be rude, but like if I am at a nursing home or anywhere I am in a store and I see an older person who's really, hunched over, I'm automatically like checking my own posture, because it
Right.
is, when you're on the computer all the time, it is so easy to just get into that hunched posture. And one
Yeah.
of somebody just commented about that, like the kids with the iPads, it's just becoming an epidemic.
It's an epidemic, but there are two reasons why. One is because they didn't get most of them did not get their neurodevelopmental movements. And the other is just bad habits. There's the text neck and all that.
Yeah.
So, but to really get yourself out of the bad habit, you've got to deal with the underlying lack of core strength. And because you could go like this all day and then you can't, like, no one can sustain that. You have to build the strength from within. And then, if you're older, you do have to like do some habit work, but also we want to get children to a place where they can be upright comfortably, where it's not this huge strain and tension to be upright. So
Mhm.
that's our goal. And then obviously, our theme here is that when children are lacking in these neurodevelopmental movements, it results in an underdevelopment of the brain, body, and sensory systems, which is associated with our themes here: inattention, anxiety, and sensory issues.
So before we go into key number 1, a couple of people are asking if we will be providing the slides, and I think, Sonia, you had said yes, right?
I have the sides, yes.
Okay. Yes, we'll send you the slides in the replay tomorrow, guys.
I have the slides, and I also put the bibliography with that.
You are the
Yeah.
best. And it is like one fat biography with all that research and all that evidence. I love it.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have someone's comment up there. Go ahead. Key number 1.
Yeah. No, I already talked about this one. We can go to the next slide. Yeah. Okay. So I started to talk about this, which is if we didn't catch the children in infancy, which of course that's ideal, but especially with school-based OTs, that's usually when you start seeing the problems. First grade, because they just weren't picked up. Or, well, I mean, often it's first grade, but even before that, there's usually things happening, especially with children where it's more severe. But what we can do is we can intervene at any time. I mean, I started learning in my 40s, and that was almost 20 years ago. And I mean, it helped me so much. I think I started out saying how I had all these issues: the inattention, the anxiety, and the sensory issues. I have just been. I got so excited about this because of my own benefits. Because I used to be really anxious, and I just feel so much more spontaneous joy now because I don't have to work at it so hard of being positive because my nervous system is settled. I don't have that underlying fight or flight, which leads to sensory issues in my being, and it's such a much better way to live.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we can do it at any time. We can do it from infancy all the way to elder, and the three main things that we're going to focus on here are that it can help with physical, as social, emotional, and cognitive function. But we're first going to look at what happens when we don't get these movements and how it applies to those three areas. And so the first one is
I'm
physical
sorry.
challenges.
I got a happy finger.
Yeah, and I'm not going to take a lot of time reading this. It's mostly research references, but basically, the work that these movements do for us, or that they should be doing for us in infancy, is to develop all of these things. But if we don't get them, then we end up with like balance and coordination issues, gross and fine motor deficits, abnormal walking gait, visual motor skill deficits. So those are all very well established in the research. And then, but the cool thing is we don't have a lot of research, but we have some showing that when we give these movements, um, it helps with balance and coordination, fine motor, visual motor skills. I should mention, and I want to say, like, Even though it is challenging to research, especially nowadays, a lot of the funding goes elsewhere, and it's hard anyway to do this kind of research because there are so many variables. But we do have some, and the other thing is that I've read myself 1,700 and counting case studies, reports just from our students over the years, over many, many years. And they're so good and they're so consistent. So to me, that I am so convinced that you will see changes if kids get these consistently. But there's nothing like having your own experience and feeling it in your own body and then sharing it with the children and seeing it happen. And it's really wonderful. But okay, so this is actually important. Now, in this study, they took a group of children who had anxiety, and instead of giving them counseling or something like that, they gave them sensory motor activities that developed their balance. When they did that, in 12 weeks, they reduced anxiety to normal levels and they boosted the children's self esteem. So that's huge.
That really is huge.
It's huge. And one of the things that the neurodevelopmental movements do is they give you your balance because that's what they're doing in infancy. They're super important to for your balance skills. Um,
It's like amazing how nature works, right?
yeah.
It's just miraculous.
Yeah. Do you want me to answer that question?
Sure.
Okay. Daily is often ideal, but not every child can handle it daily, at least at the beginning. I mean, we have some kids starting with it as little as 2 to 5 minutes, and some even less if they're really sensitive, because we always want to go at their pace. We teach in the course how to develop a movement program that's very individualized because you just
Mhm.
have to do that. Kids are they're really stressed. They're holding a lot of stress. They're holding a lot of tension
Yeah.
because they've started out with poor development, most likely, or they've had trauma, or they get trauma later on because they have poor development. Like there's even a study I came across that said when children have poor gross and fine motor skills, they're more victimized by their peers, which is really
Oh,
sad.
that
I
is
know,
sad.
it's so sad. So the kids are holding in a lot. And the movements are incredibly powerful. So you often start slow and then just build really gradually. So for highly sensitive kids, it's better to do it maybe every other day and then you just have to do what you can. I mean, ideally, for most kids, they are getting it um, uh, daily, but not all by any means. Okay, so the next realm that we're looking at are social emotional challenges. And if you look at how the brain develops in normal, healthy development, first the brainstem and the cerebellum are developing, and then there's these linkages that link right up into the more emotional brain or like the limbic area, and that's where we start to develop our emotional skills and our ability to pay attention. But we have research now that shows when children are lacking again in the neurodevelopmental movements, they're incomplete. It's associated with poor attention and opposition defiance. And I think that's a direct result of being in fight or flight.
Right.
Weak emotional regulation, anxiousness, depression, and severe emotional and behavioral challenges. And we know probably from experience that children are less capable of self regulation than they were 40 years ago. And from what I learned from Dr. Blomberg, one of my mentors who was a psychiatrist, is that is really a brain immaturity. Um, Brain, body, and sensory immaturity because kids aren't trying to be bad. They just literally cannot sit still or regulate. They don't have that maturity physiologically, neurologically to be able to do that.
Right.
And I really stress that point with I mean, mostly OTs know that, but I think parents know it intuitively, but it's nice for them to get like validation about that. Yeah. And then again, the research is not as robust as we would like in this area, but there is research and huge, robust anecdotal, um, child after child after child, better social emotional regulation. And and so there's 3 studies there that show improvements in social emotional, and it just makes sense because the movements help to calm the fight or flight. It's just like if you think of a baby when they're first born, they have that startle reflex. Well, a lot of children that doesn't go away, and
Right.
that's a huge problem because it should be dormant anytime between 2 to 4 months, 6 months at the latest, like for a preemie or something like that. I mean, I had an underlying Moro that stayed with me my whole life. I learned to compensate for it. I got good grades in school, but I was like inside, I was always like, and it's just so much better without that.
It's just crazy that you didn't even know.
I didn't know. I mean, and also we took, I took physiology in college and everything. And all I remember was the professor saying, yeah, when children are born, they know how to suck, which is a reflex, and they have a rooting reflex. So they know how to get their nutrition. And that's it. That's all I learned about reflexes. And even today in Psych 101 courses, um, they teach about the reflexes. It's in the textbook, but they give it like this super cursory look. And there's all this research showing that when those reflexes are retained in the system, they use retained or different words,
Non-integrated.
unintegrated, retained, active. Um, when they're still active and they haven't gone dormant, it's associated with all kinds of challenges, and that the research is really robust on. But it never made it to the Psych 101 textbooks, even recent ones. Um, anyway.
So this is a good question.
Oh, Zoe, thanks. Yes and no. So, so the object of giving the neurodevelopmental movements is that they will integrate reflexes. And we have all these tools to do that very specifically in the course. But interestingly enough, and I sort of brought this up on another slide, which will come later, but I'll address it now, is that we found over the years that the rhythmic movements are actually the best things to start with because they're so calming and they're so organizing and they seem to mature the brain so quickly, and they also help with sleep. So it's just a great, loving, wonderful, nurturing way to start children. And so they're included in the neurodevelopmental movements. So things like rhythmic movements, the innate rhythmic movements, the reflexes, the developmental movements. We put them all in the course because that's actually how um, development actually happens. Like the rhythmic movements and the reflexes are happening at the same time and they support one another. Like when you do rhythmic movements, it helps integrate reflexes. When you do specific direct reflex integration, it helps the rhythmic movements be more smooth and flowing. So, and then the developmental movements, of course, are woven into that. And then there's, things like bonding and connection that are also part of development that we weave into the course. So it's a very complete, in-depth, really what it is we're trying to replicate development as closely as possible.
Mhm.
So that's why I include like a lot of reflex integration courses, they might include like 6 reflexes, but in our program with the first and second level, we've got like 23 different ones. And
Wow.
in first level, you do 11 and the rhythmic movement. So it's really complete. And we have a whole process where we help children with their goals. Um, anyway, let's keep going.
Okay, so I just wanted to comment. Amanda OT was saying, "How do you address reflexes in the school setting?" And we do have a lot of school therapists who have chimed in and said that they find it works even if they're not able to do it every day. And I actually did an interview with a school-based OT that I'll be sharing not tomorrow but the next day in my email series. So it's definitely doable.
Yeah. And it doesn't take any equipment either. I mean, if you can just get a child on a mat for 5 minutes,
Right.
it's amazing. And
Yes.
so we talked about severe emotional behavioral challenges. Here's an example. This OT sent me this. She just was blown away, and I'm blown away. I'm still blown away every time I read this. But this child was in a special school, 8 years old. He couldn't attend regular school because he had such severe behavior challenges. So when he got frustrated, he would throw chairs, hitting, yelling, and he'd have 4 or 5 adults holding him down at the floor. So they started doing these, and she reported back in 6 weeks, and they just had done rhythmic movements. They hadn't even gotten to reflexes yet, and he had hardly any behavioral or emotional outbursts, either at school or at home.
In 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm. And
Wow.
he improved his balance, coordination, sensory processing, impulse control, obviously, and frustration tolerance. So yeah. And for this child, his diagnosis, I believe at least part of it was he had a severe emotional behavioral challenges. He was in a special school.
So
So,
he was so
and
he
he might have had other diagnoses
right.
also. Yeah.
Okay. Um, this is from Rachel. The students that she's started rhythmic movements with are autistic, and she finds she always needs to do the movements for them. Do you find this as effective? That's a great question.
Well, the thing is what the way we approach it is we always start with passive rhythmic movements where you're doing it for the child, because almost every child who has challenges, they can't do it rhythmically. Even though they were supposed to be able to develop that rhythmic quality in infancy, they never got it. And or they had a trauma later on where they can't access it, and it leaves an immaturity in the brain. It actually is a sign that the cerebellum is immature, and it's often a sign that the reflexes are unintegrated. So you have to start passively, because you can't just say, here, do a rhythmic movement. It's not the child can't do that.
Right.
So and it's not just kids with autism that can't do that. It's
No, I was doing it today with my daughter, and was doing it passively, and yeah.
And you'll see I have a little snippet on a video where I'm teaching a little rhythmic movement to a child, and he can't, well, as soon as I let go and stop doing it, he can't maintain the rhythm. So then you got to restart. But just to address the question a little bit more, when you have done enough rhythmic movement for a child, and we go through a whole process of how to transition a child from passive to active. When they can start doing it on their own and they can maintain the rhythm, that means you've helped them develop their brain way more than when you started.
Wow.
And that is a sign that they're have they've crossed this line in their development to be able to do that. So the goal is that you get somebody to be able to do it actively, but it takes some time, and ideally, you can get the parents on board also,
Mhm.
because even just 3 to 5 minutes a night before bed is just awesome.
Okay.
But and so the goal is to get them to active, but there are some children that they won't get there, like they have cerebral palsy that's really intense, or they have something that's like a super intense diagnosis that they can't do it, but they will still benefit from getting it passively. Even just in relaxation, movement, it's really fantastic. And there is quite a lot of research on rhythmic input being good for the brain also.
Yeah.
Um, so last realm here is that the reflexes are associated with cognitive challenges. They when the development is incomplete, we can see reading, writing, math, and developmental language disorders. And the good thing is the research is way more robust on helping kids with cognitive challenges when we give the reflex integration and neurodevelopmental movements. So you can see there's a few studies cited. So there is research on that, which is very good and helpful. And then the next slide I love because this one, can we go to the next one?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So this one, and this study is the first one that came out of its kind that where they checked reading scores.
This article is amazing.
Yep. These kids only received 5 minutes a day, 4 days a week. And their reading scores improved. And it was just the innate rhythmic movements. They hadn't even done reflex integration, but they found that those rhythmic movements help the children with their reflex integration.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great study, and I'm really, really happy to see it. And the other thing is that Peggy McCann,
Mm-hmm.
she's a OT assistant, and she took a group of autistic kids. They were in a self-contained classroom, and they had crazy like staff shortages in this school district, and so she had 95 kids on her caseload, and she said this is not the right way to do OT, but it's all I could do. So all she had time for these particular kids was 4 minutes a day of
Wow.
rhythmic movements. So they took took the baseline data, which was the OT goals. They took that at the beginning of the school quarter. They did it for nearly the whole school quarter, only 4 minutes a day. Each child got 4 minutes a day. They went back and checked after one quarter. It actually wasn't even a full quarter, but they checked the data again, and every child had made progress on their OT goals. And they didn't even get OT interventions, like standard OT interventions.
Wow.
So, and this research is very similar. They had 5 minutes a day, 4 days a week, and Peggy's group had 4 minutes a day, 5 days a week.
So one thing I just wanted to share as a school district OT, sometimes you have administrators or bosses who are not OTs, and it's hard to get a little bit of buy-in. And they may say, oh, well, working on reflexes, that's a clinical OT thing. That's not to be worked on in the school setting. But when you see an article like this, and when you see the success stories on Sonia's website, it is like perfect material to go to an administrator and say, I'd really like to take this course.
Yeah.
And I think that I can help that self-contained class that we've been struggling with. Or, that one child with all these behaviors, maybe this would help. I'd love to learn more. And the fact that it relates back to reading is kind of, something that's in their foremind. They're always worried about the reading, me not as much because I'm not a reading teacher. I'm worried about the behavior and the functioning and the anxiety and the inattention. So just keep that in mind, guys. If you're if you feel like the course seems great and you want to try it, but you want your district to pay for it, this is a great way to, show the research that it does matter. And primitive reflexes, they do incorporate everything and they impact our kiddos so much.
Yeah. And you can do them with children of all skill levels. So, okay, so key number 2, that the neurodevelopmental movements increase maturity of the brain, body, and sensory systems. And I already started to talk about the innate rhythmic movements and why they're the best place to begin. It's because they're super calming, very regulating and organizing and maturing, especially for the cerebellum and the brainstem. And so they're a great way to start. The thing is if you're familiar at all with primitive reflexes, you know that there's a stimulus and then a motor response. Sometimes if they've been carrying those reflexes with them, especially the startle or a lot of the other ones, they're hard to carry with you. They when they're retained, it's like your brainstem never fully matured, and so you're in this state of agitation also, which can lead to sensory issues, but also like body parts are tied together because that's the definition of a reflex. You turn your head this way and your arms move
Right.
this way. And so and also one of the things Dr. Blomberg taught us, which made so much sense, is that when the reflexes are not integrated, meaning they're still active and they haven't gone dormant, the primitive reflexes, it it not only ties body parts together, but the muscles don't develop. They don't develop as fully as they could because they're not neurologically, they don't have the same neurologic input. But once you integrate the reflexes, there's that neurological connection gets in there, and then the muscles can develop. It's amazing. I had one mother write to me that her son could not even do one push up, and then within, I think it was within, oh, I have to look now, but I think it was 6 months or less. He could do like 38 push ups in a row. So it's just amazing. And I
Yeah.
know because I used to teach live all the time, and we would have all these groups of adults. And they would say, even after just one integration of like the Moro reflex, their core strength would improve.
That's awesome.
And you can feel it. So, anyway,
Yeah. So, Facebook user, just go to streamyard.com/Facebook and validate your name and just let me see who you are, because we're going to be giving away a prize. If anyone missed, we're giving away the Neuromat at the end of our webinar. So you got to stay till the end, and I've got to be able to see your name. So, but I also wanted to address your question. Yes, there are some basic movements that helped a lot of the issues, and we're going to be going into them in just a couple minutes. Sonia just has so much awesome background info. Like you're so convincing of like, wow, this is so important.
well, it comes with a lot of experience.
Of course.
I just have been really, it's been an amazing journey for me because I just am in so much awe of how the human beings are created and put together, and that we can access this gift even later on, even though these were all meant to just be used in infancy, except for
Right.
walking. You know, a toddler will grow, or an infant grows, and then they get to the walking stage. We're meant to walk a lot. That's like we're built for that, and that is a rhythmic movement. That's an
Right.
innate rhythmic
Yeah,
movement.
that makes sense.
But anyway, if we're misaligned or we've got all these other body parts tied together, walking isn't as comfortable, and it's not it yeah. So anyway, you know, Jamie, I have to say that last question, I just want to make sure that I don't misrepresent anything, because I think that that Facebook user, sorry, was saying, are there basic movements that take care of these issues? And I have to say that you do want to learn more, because it's not just like I can only show you two short little things today that are a good place to start, because we don't have a lot of time for the extra training that it would take. But really, what you want to do is do something that's complete for the children so that they have the most optimal foundation we can give them. And it's not just one or two little movements that do that. So I just want to make sure we can give you a start and you
Right.
can play with them. But I just want to make sure that I explain that.
No, I
Because
think it's fair. This is a very her Sonia's full course is extremely robust. How many hours is it, Sonia? 18?
it's 18 for the first level
Yeah.
and
So
13 for the
it's
second.
very involved, but we did want to just give you guys a taste of what the rhythmic movements look like. And they are, simple, easy to do, and, not harmful in any way, shape, or form. So you could definitely try them out with your kiddos.
Yeah. And then, sorry, can we go back just one slide? So I just want to make sure I've already said everything like that. I've already said everything except that the sucking and the rocking on hands and knees are familiar examples, but there are many more that happen very early on before crawling. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Okay, so here's interesting research talking about when a child grows up and they didn't develop their rhythm. It's associated with speech and language challenges, developmental coordination disorder, ADHD, and dyslexia. So that's really interesting. And you'll see when you do transition a child from passive rhythmic movement to active, you're going to see huge bursts in their development and their function. So, and here's an example. And this is also an example of really how amazing these are, because I gave these drawings. So the before drawing is on the left, the after one is on the right. And I gave these to a developmental specialist and I said, "How much time do you think elapsed between these?" And she said, "Well, that looks about 6 months of maturity." And I said, "That was 10 minutes." And the boy drew the picture on the left, and then his mom did 10 minutes of rhythmic movement, and then he drew the picture on the right. And that was the mother who's a physical therapist. And um, okay, so
Sorry, I'm distracting you with these comments, but
no, that's okay.
they're so
That's okay.
good.
Um, we can deal with plateaus. We just work into the nervous system in another doorway.
I like
But
I like
Natalie, if you're in the course, please send me an email. We'll address that.
I love that she's talking about executive functioning skills because that's something that's also coming up again and again and again.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
interesting to know that that did help for, up until now.
Yeah. Yeah. And my guess is that there's some unintegrated reflexes that need work, and we just go in a different doorway.
Mhm.
So here's another one. This was after one session. A 6-year-old boy, I think he had about 15 minutes of rhythmic movements, and his OT sent these to me. And again, inattentive behaviors, poor posture, oculomotor concerns, they all go together. All these things go together.
But like this kid on the left, he's everywhere. I have that kid, like he's every kid in the classes that I'm going into.
I
And the
know.
teacher's like, "Oh, I think he has, low tone." I'm like, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, it's and remember that the when your reflexes aren't integrated, it interferes with muscle strength. And if you don't get enough time in prone, that's another thing you can do for your kids. Put them in prone. Put them in prone. Prone, 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 prone. Do all kinds of games in prone, and that's really helpful also. But you do have to address that moral reflex too, and the tonic labyrinthine, because that is the basis of our core strength also. So anyway, we can go on. So I like this one too. You can see before and then after, a lot more detail. I love how we see more body parts added and more better proportion, a differentiation between the trunk, and it's just so great. But this child gained over 2.5 years in 6 months, and this was a child with autism.
So I know that you have a lot of parents who take this course, and I can see why. When you hear
Yeah.
results like that, it's just astounding.
Hmm. Yeah. And I love this one too because this mom uh, documented how much time that they spent. And she spent 1 to 15 minutes per day, 3 to 5 times a week. And I think that's really important because I tell people these movements are super powerful, but this is really makes it more believable. So she had medically diagnosed ADHD. Um, and she had been in speech therapy since the age of 3. She was dismissed after the 6 months of doing these movements. And also, all these things. So she started with anxiety, and that got better with just the rhythmic movements. I think they did a couple months just of rhythmic movements first. And so her anxiety lessened, and then she got better with her balance and coordination and her gait. Her gait improved, and then her writing improved, her math improved, and her focus improved. So you can see that.
So a lot of people are asking about goals. So in schools, our goals absolutely need to be academically related and functional. So you wouldn't even mention, using the rhythmic movements is your modality. So it's an activity that you're doing as part of your treatment, but our end goal is that they have an upright posture. Our end goal is that they're able to, you know, walk around the environment without bumping into things, something, functional and
Exactly.
academically appropriate. So when our reading teachers say we want them to be able to read at a second grade level, they don't say using the Wilson program or anything like that.
Right.
Nobody needs to know our secrets of how we're getting all this done.
I love that. Yeah, and all it is really is we're building the foundation for function. That's what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to show you some videos on rhythmic movements, but it's important that you know that you want to be comfortable. You need to be comfortable, and the individual that you're doing this with needs to be comfortable. So, um, sometimes if you lay a child on their back, they might have a belt loop in the back that's uncomfortable. So ask them, get them as comfortable as possible. Give them a little thin pillow to elevate their head a little bit. You're always going to draw out the rhythm that feels best to the receiver. And it's not according to a metronome. It's not according to like some rhythm you think is good. It's what did they like. And the only exception to that is if a child is going faster, 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 and then it becomes really chaotic. And so you want to you want to like not really go down that route. You might do it faster just to be playful for a couple minutes, but then you're going to say okay, and you kind of dial it back, because the faster something gets, sometimes the more chaotic it gets. So you want to make sure that there is a steady rhythm. And then you ask for feedback on how it feels. Do you want more range of motion? Do you want my hand to be in a different place? You want it harder or softer, faster or slower, that kind of thing. Should be pleasant for everyone. And obviously, when ones are non-speaking, you're going to look at their body language, which you guys are trained to do anyway, but you look at their facial expression, how they're breathing. If they're wriggling away from you, they're probably not comfortable. If they're kind of relaxing and smiling, that's good. And then you want to be as present and relaxed as possible. So it's ideal for you to get in that state. And then you want to sing or hum while you're doing the rhythm, or some kind of rhythmic input auditorily, unless the child is super sensitive and they might not be able to handle the movement and the auditory. We do not use a metronome, and the reason is because we're trying to draw the rhythm out from the child that feels best. We also want to play and experiment. Like, what do you think about this tempo? Well, what if I slow it down? What does that feel like? So, and also a metronome is not the most pleasant sound. It's way better for the child to be connected to the warmth of your voice and a little sing-song nursery rhyme or song that they like. It's much better, because then you can moderate that according to the speed that they like.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that kind of thing. So
awesome. That was an awesome disclaimer, Sonia.
yeah.
Okay, so you ready for the first video? You guys ready? I want to hear a heck yeah if you're all ready for the examples. Yeah. We just gave you all this background info about why these are awesome. Are we ready?
So first of all, you're going to be surprised at how simple they are. And you're going to see a video with me demonstrating, well, three movements. But then I'm going to show you how I do it with a child.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Very simple.
Yeah, there is research about how innate rhythmic movements help develop speech. And one of the things that children do just before, this is in normal healthy development, just before they start babbling, is they do this arm banging thing. So it's pretty amazing.
That is amazing and interesting. I love that little tidbit.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Okay, yeah. Let's go to the next one.
Perfect. You got it. Keep going. Good. So I think probably people picked up on the fact that when I let go, he lost the rhythm. And when I asked him to do it on his own, he lost the rhythm.
Mhm.
So so you watch that and you go, okay, now I know that I'm going to have to address this, right? Because he couldn't do it on his own. So then you go back to passive and then you gradually transition. And most kids can get it.
One thing that I want to bring up, because I have shared like just a quick little social media, oh, I knew I was going to see it. A quick little social media picture here or there of like me helping my daughter with something, and people always comment about the hand over hand. So here's Esther wondering if guiding movement is another name for hand over hand. How much autonomy are we taking from the student? Need to be sensitive to a variety for our learners. So I mean, I think it goes without saying, if the child's tactilely defensive and they don't want you touching them, you've got to obviously tread extremely lightly. But in an instance like this, the child does not have the movements on their own. So the passive part is important. Am I speaking properly to it, Sonia?
I think so. And actually, most kids love these movements. Even kids with autism, they will ask for more. But there are kids that will be like, no, I'm not doing that. Or some kids feel very vulnerable if you put them on their back. And so we have different positions and things like that. We don't start on the back if it's too hard.
Right.
The other thing is that yeah. Well, first of all, kids really do love them and ask for more. But the kids that don't, and if they're highly tactily defensive, we don't push it. It is not worth
Yeah.
it because you don't want to ever mess with your rapport and feelings
Yeah.
of safety. But we have other things that we can do, and we like I said, it's rare when a kid doesn't have some way to do the rhythmic movements, but if they really don't and they're highly tactily defensive, then we have other things that we do first. And yeah, because I don't want to give the impression like, with hand over hand that we're forcing anything because
No.
we never do that.
I like the word guided because it's like you're supporting them in this movement that they are unable to achieve on their own. Um,
Right.
right? I mean,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
I like how you said it about the door opening. So if this strategy, I mean, this is what we do every day, you guys. Like if this strategy is not working with the child, let's do it a different way. Or if they hate this, let's do it this way and still get the same result. Like OTs are so adaptive, and I mean, I know we have a lot of people who are not OTs here. So, you
Mhm.
ready for the last one?
Ready. Yeah, there's two. Oh yeah, wait, there's one more video. Right.
One more video, guys. Here we go.
Ready? One, two, three, now.
So you can see he was going faster and faster,
Yeah.
right?
So you just play with it at first, and then yeah, because it has to be rhythmic. If fast is okay as long as it's rhythmic, and then it's good to get children, um, experimenting with different speeds. If and sometimes, well, that's a whole different subject because obviously sometimes we're moving the head rhythmically, but that's a different. We need a little more training for that because some kids are really sensitive with vestibular input. But
Right.
but a lot of times children will prefer a certain speed and then it changes, which is interesting
Yeah, that is
as they
interesting.
get more maturity. Yeah. So ideally, the rhythmic movements are going to be smooth and flowing, symmetrical and coordinated, rhythmic, effortless, comfortable, and obviously they can be done solo or passively.
But it
Um, yeah,
takes a while to get there, which is just fine.
yeah. And there are many rhythmic movements. These are just two of the ones that are easiest to teach in a short program.
Okay.
Okay, so obviously we're going to make it fun. If we're working with kids, it has to be playful, it has to be engaging, it has to be um, pleasant, And so we just go from one little game to another. One, let's play this and let's play that, and what if we do this? And this is to the point of what we were talking about. We never force anything. Um, we we never force anything. They don't need to be barefoot, but barefoot's ideal. Um, but yeah, we're always teaching children that touch is safe, that movement is safe, and that's why we really have to individualize things, um, and honor the pace that works for that individual. Because otherwise, we're just putting more stress into their system, and that's the opposite of what we're doing.
Yeah, that's not what we're about.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty good. Yeah, we have so many.
Awesome. There's a lot of questions about your course. So do you want to give your spiel?
Sure. Well, I mentioned that we teach more rhythmic movements in the course, and that we also teach 11 reflexes. 10 of them are primitive reflexes, and one's postural. And then that's just the first level. And then in that first level, you also get a brain tune up. That's really good for helping with stress release. And part of that we can use for emotional regulation. That was the one thing that I learned with my girls. Like, we have to, it was just like this thing that took 30 seconds that was just so helpful because they stopped fighting. Um, and and then we also have a whole protocol where we can help children with their goals, because so many children, they have goals. They want to be able to do things, but
Yeah.
it's stressful for them. And I love that part. That actually is something that I learned. The basis of it I learned in Brain Gym, but I also wove it into this course in a modified form. And you can also use it to enhance not only goals, but the reflex integration. So thank you, Susan. It's such a good course.
So let's just talk to everybody about the amount of time that it takes. This is definitely another level. Like you're adding something significant to your repertoire, and this is not just a quickie 1 hour or 1 day course. So just to give everybody a heads up about that, if you don't feel like you have time to invest, then that's important to know. But if you do feel like you're ready to learn something new, you're ready to kind of level up, I want to say, because I know, and I was just saying to one of my girlfriends the other day that when you're a therapist for so long, it kind of seems like all the webinars that are out there, you're like, yeah, I knew that. Like, not like I know everything, of course, but a lot of it is just very introductory and very, not deeper level and not new and exciting. So this would be the answer to that challenge if anyone is looking for that kind of thing. And we are AOTA approved, right?
Yeah.
And PT approved for some states.
For most states, for I think we're over 40 now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, how long did that take you?
Um, I didn't have to do it individually. I'll tell anyone who wants to know, I can refer you to there's a group that's doing it for PTs.
I did not know this, and yes, I want to know.
Yeah.
Any other questions about the course, you guys, before we go into? Oh, we do have a coupon code for you. So let's talk about the price, Sonia. Just so, because if people are going to go back to their schools and ask for
Yeah.
reimbursement.
So for purchase orders, we actually don't take coupon codes because the school's paying for it, and it takes us extra time to process those. But if you are thinking to get this course with a purchase order, could you please let me know, because Jaime gets a portion of some of this because of her hard work getting the word out and all the stuff that she does to help OTs. And so we want to make sure that Jaime gets credit if you have a purchase order. And so let me know. But it's $495 for the first level, and you get a lot. And I would even say, it does take time to learn, but you're going to have so much fun, um, and it'll save you time in the long run. And we even have OTs routinely saying, I wish I'd learned this at the beginning of my career. I wish I learned it in school.
Yeah.
But also, like, wow, it helped me. I sleep better. I have less pain. It's back to that thing of it's doing so much at once. So
Yeah. And we
you will be
all
able to function.
everybody has stuff going on, so it's
Yeah.
only
Yeah, we all
beneficial.
have stress. And we all almost all of us have at least some retained reflexes that are, maybe not severe, but definitely impacting our function. And
Yeah.
so, not everybody, but it's very common even in adults. And so then the other question, you do have assignments that you have to do, which is part of what gets you learning the material is to be engaged. So there are actually 2 case studies that are required, but it doesn't, you can do a self case study as one of them and just pick a friend or a family member or student. It's not hard. The case study part is not hard. It takes some time, but it's so worth it. I mean, for me, it was completely life changing. And the thing about it is you're going to see results. Like I had an OT tell me, she said, I see results now in 2 months that I used to be happy to get in a year. And
Wow.
so it's fun. It will save you time in the long run.
That's a bold statement.
I know. I
So
know.
someone's asking, is there an expiration on the coupon code? So the open enrollment is until April 30th, right? It's
Yes.
until the end of the month. So the coupon code will be good until the end of the month.
Correct.
So some people are saying thanks, thanks, thanks. Don't leave you guys yet because in a second we're about to give away the neuromat.
You're so
Don't leave yet.
funny.
You put in this much time, you guys.
Oh, that's
It
fun.
is virtual, it is online. Are there payment plans available?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. If you just go through the registration process, you'll see you can split the payment.
Crystal Gentry, I wish I knew about this. Our grant was yesterday. Oh, that stinks, but it'll be open again in 6 months, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
in about
And
6 months. But I'm sorry to say that the price might be higher because we give a lot of support to our students, and our prices are going up every year
right, and
for
there's
our platform and
live
things like that.
live Q&As.
Yeah, it's an online course that you do at your own pace. There's lots of support, and you get 100-page manual. I think that's on one of the slides, but you get 100-page color spiral bound manual that
Mhm.
it's great because
It is great.
yeah, you learn online and then you have this great reference book that you can take with you anywhere.
Because when you look at the exercise and then you go to do it with your student, you can't just be like, "Hold on, let me pull up that video and make sure I'm doing it
Right.
right." So you have your book open and then that's
Yes.
perfect.
Yeah.
And how long do the students have to complete it?
Um, at a minimum, you have 9 months to complete it. But we also have things where, if you didn't get to it in 9 months, you can always extend. There's
I
an
do that.
extension. And for a fee, it's a fee because we do give support. Yeah.
I do the same thing because there's just life gets in the way sometimes and we have to have compassion for our
Oh yeah.
fellow people.
Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure.
you can teach an old OT dog new tricks. Such a great opportunity for seasoned school-based OT. I totally agree, Josh Lieberman. That's exactly how I feel. So, all righty. Oh, one more informational slide, Sonia.
Oh, well, this is just, we have so many quotes. So some of them are just really fun. So one says, I've been working as a school based OT for 18 years. It's the most useful practical, and informative course I've ever taken. So it's very practical. It's so to the point of what kids need. They really are lacking in their foundation. So if we can put some of that development in there, it's just so wondrous to see what happens. And then this other soul, Peggy, it's Peggy McCann, who she posted this, and that's what got me like going, wow, this is so cool. We've got to interview this soul. And she's the one I was telling you about who worked with the self-contained classroom.
Yes, I have an interview with her, you guys, that I can share if anyone's interested. I'll probably share it in the next week or two in my emails anyway. But someone's asking if they have access to the videos forever.
No, you have access to your course manual forever, but not the videos. There is, because, so my goal, well, in a way, it's forever because you learn them and you embody them, and then you have the tools for your life. That's my goal. My
Right.
goal is that you engage with the course, you learn the tools, you're doing them yourself. They're not hard, they're not rocket science. Like you turn your head this way, ATNR, you have one pattern right there. There's only 11 patterns and there's several reflexes, but we need to I give a deadline because otherwise it's too easy to put it off, and you could be helping people in the meantime. But also, we have to do that for my sanity with assignments and keeping records for CEUs. So that's why we have a start date.
Right.
You have a lot of time, and then you have an end date. And so, yeah, you don't get everything, forever, but you definitely get the
Yeah.
what
9
you.
months 9 months is a long time to learn something, to learn this.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because you can do, it's divided up into 8 sessions. You can do one session a month, and that's a good slow pace. And you have 2 Q&As each month, except for December. You can ask your questions. You can
Mhm.
practice. You can pace it. The manual is shipped, and there is an extra charge if you're international, but otherwise it's just shipped along with your tuition if it's in the US. And there are 2 levels total. And but the rest of the course is online, and most of it is self-paced. But then when we do Q&As, they're live, and we have them scheduled. So we talk just like we're talking now, and so that way I give you really in-depth feedback on the application of what you're doing.
On particular students, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, someone is saying what kind of evidence and what kind of links for the evidence. So, the evidence on Sonia's website is so I'm going to say the word robust because my assistant Kim, who's here, loves the word robust.
Yeah.
It's just like, I mean, I love I really am getting to be so into research and just here's the information, here's the evidence. You know what I mean? Like this works. And someone's saying, do you ever do professional development for a school OTPT department? I'm sure that that's for you, Sonia.
Well, I have done that. And you can email me, or I'll just forward it to like our business manager. It depends on the situation. I do less traveling now because I'm a grandmother, um, and our granddaughter is only 4.5 months old. So
Oh,
I'm visiting them a lot,
I
and,
hope you're
and
taking a
also.
lot of videos of her reflexes.
Oh, it's fun. It's really fun. But I want to address that question about the reflexes and the evidence. So, Jamie, I'm going to give you that link because we have the evidence ebook, and that would be a really good one to share, so that people can. It's like a 47-page ebook that um, it's robust. It's a robust ebook.
Yes, yes.
But it's a lot of evidence, and if you want to see more, but although I did that book like 2 years ago, I have to update it because the one Griggs study where they did 5 minutes 4 times a week and they got higher reading scores, that was with rhythmic movements, and they got simultaneously integrating reflexes, but that just came out in 2023.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, so I mean, you can get a copy of the slides for that. And whoever is asking that question, you can email me, and I can get you that study. That's fine.
So people are asking, do teachers sign up? Do parents sign up? Yes. When you go to the website, you'll see how it's just such a wide variety of adults working with children. Someone saying, can we hurt kids in any way if we do it wrong?
Um, well,
Not if
you,
you're following the directions.
yeah. So as long as you're not forcing a child to do anything, then you're good. Um, when children have like medical conditions like a shunt or a G tube, or you have to do basic things like don't put them in compromising positions that are going to hurt. But these movements are natural movements. They're innate within us. Our bodies are meant to do them, and there's no harm in doing them as long as you follow the directions, because they are powerful, and you do want to start slowly. And we have a whole flow chart of like, you start here. If the child is progressing and enjoying that, then you move to this. If the child is not doing it, or you need to do something different, then you go back to this step. So it's like there's this whole flow chart. And as long as you're following the directions, you should be fine. But it does take individualized care.
Mm-hmm.
But really, the movements are so supportive. Um, there's really, like, you could even be integrating a reflex and it was already integrated, but you keep integrating it because you didn't know somehow, and you're not going to do any harm. They're natural movements.
Right.
But you never want to force anyone to do anything.
Right.
So,
So, I mean, I think we answered most of these questions. You can sign up for the course before April 30th, and then it will go away. It's AOTA approved. You'll get the manual. You'll have access to the videos for 9 months. You'll have access to the manual forever. There's
mhm.
Is there a fee for the evidence ebook? No, I
No,
think
it's free.
that's a free ebook.
And,
So I'll send all of that to you guys. Don't
yeah.
worry about it. So let's get moving on the mat, though. I think we're starting to lose people because we've been on a lot longer than we intended. So, okay, here we go. Should we do the drum roll? Okay, our winner is, I want to say Alicia R. I'm going to put it in here because I don't want to mispronounce it.
Okay.
Okay, are you still here, Alicia? Ah! Yay, she won. She's so excited.
Oh,
Good.
yay.
Listen, you guys, I have to say, I love to give away prizes. I really do. And I feel like for these amazing adults who just want to help kids and are giving up a Tuesday night to hear
Yes.
science conversation, you guys deserve treats and prizes. You
Yeah.
do. See, she said I never win anything. Well, now you do. Now
Yeah.
you do, my friend.
And then we just need to get your mailing address, obviously.
Yes. So, did I say your name right, Alicia? Alicia? If you can email customer service at Miss Jaime OT, and it's Jaime, and just say, hi, it's me, it's Alicia, and here's your address, and we will get that mat out to you. So we are very excited. Congratulations. Okay, so if we have any more burning questions, you guys, I want to thank all of you for staying so much. I hope that you enjoyed the movements. I will be sending the replay tomorrow. And if you have questions, you can email me at customer service at missjamiot.com, or you can email Sonia. Absolutely 100% check out her website because it's honestly, I want to say, mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling, and I love that you do that case study assignment because the case studies that are submitted are just, I mean, and she has a whole PDF by category of the case studies. So if you're like, would it work for my child with autism? Would it work for my child with you know, inattention and anxiety? Would it work for my child with speech and language issues? And it's just there's studies on all of these different issues. It's headaches, right? Headaches was one of the ones,
Yeah.
digestive issues, so many things that
Yeah.
were dissolved. And ADHD was a big one too. I sent an email about that the other day. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's excellent. And I think the reason why it impacts so many things is because of getting, calming the fight or flight and then really maturing the nervous system.
it
Yeah.
just makes so much sense. It really does. So, thank you so much, Sonia. I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate all the time and effort you put into these beautiful slides and giving us this information. Okay, so we do still have a couple of questions.
Oh, sure.
Suzanne Simons wants to know if the movements can be adapted to a seated pattern if there's no room in the classroom. Also, if the therapist has difficulty getting down on the floor.
Yeah. So you can, but it's not optimal. And the reason is because we're really trying to replicate development, and children are on the floor. The infants are on the floor when they're
Right.
developing.
Right.
So that is optimal. If you're an OT who can't get down on the floor up and down easily, then what I would suggest is getting a massage table and just having kids hop up on the table and do stuff from there.
Oh,
Um,
you say it like it's so easy, Sonia. In the school, we're like, I'll steal this cafeteria table.
Yeah, no, I know.
There's no money, and
No, I know.
it's always a shortage of
Yeah.
materials, but
Yeah, okay, well, in that case,
you never know.
get a thick camping mat, put it on whatever table you can. But it is better to be on the floor if you can. Just but in general, we don't need any equipment. We just need, maybe a little mat or a carpet or something like that.
So Susan was asking about bedwetting. I know you have a couple of case studies about that on your website as well, right?
Yeah, and the reason is because now not all bedwetting, but some bedwetting is because some of the reflexes never finished and they never became dormant because there are infant reflexes, they're tactile reflexes on the back that actually stimulate the bladder. And it's very difficult to learn um, holding the bladder if those reflexes are active. So we have seen that we make really good progress with the spinal reflexes that we do that help with bedwetting. So yeah, I can't promise. I can never
Yeah,
promise for
of course.
any condition.
Yeah.
So for any individual or any given condition, we don't know until we try. But so often we see good help in many, many areas. Yeah.
I love
Any
that.
other questions? I'm happy to answer questions. It's my favorite thing to talk about. Yeah, I feel very blessed that I get to do this. And Jamie, thanks so much to you and your team there. Kim, thank you. You guys do a fantastic job. It's super fun to hang out with you.
I love it. Please, I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
Josh Lieberman, my bud, is asking, do you ever have any in-person courses, or is it always all online?
I do in-person courses. It used to be that I only taught in person, but then in 2012, I had a group of parents on the East Coast saying, we have special needs kids, we can't travel. So then I figured out how to do things online. And since then, most students want online. And I had a PT write to me saying, I loved this because I could watch the videos, practice, absorb it, and then watch more. And she said a lot of times when I go to, a weekend class, it just comes at you like a fire hose, and then you're a little overwhelmed. So most students prefer the online, but I'm open to traveling. It's unfortunately it's a lot more expensive, but I do it. Um, Oh, okay. That's a good question. The answer is you have to fully complete the course to get a certificate.
Right. Those are
Yeah,
AOTA's rules.
yeah. We can't do partial credit. Sorry.
Oh, Sonia, people want you.
A virtual professional development. Yeah, sure. I would love that. Thank you. I'd be happy to do that. That's easy. That's easy. Travel is much more interesting these days because it's just so much more expensive than it
Yeah,
used to
yeah.
be. But it
I
does.
love to travel, but sometimes
Yeah.
it's just not feasible. It depends. I mean, I
Yeah,
feel the
I
same
mean, it
way.
does work out, so you can always run by us, what you have in mind.
Someone's asking, any chance you're in Oklahoma?
No, I'm not in Oklahoma, I'm in Washington. That's funny, I just drove through Oklahoma on my way to Arkansas. I was in Arkansas. Um,
Susan is asking, I think this is the about the bedwetting. It's the spinal galant.
Usually it is the spinal galant, but then there's another one in second level called spinal Perez that we sometimes also have to address. And then it depends. Like if there's a lot of anxiety, it could be moro and fear paralysis also combined. It's usually with any given condition, there's usually more than one reflex involved. So that's why we like to have a really complete foundation. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, my friends, we are dwindling down to 100 people, and I'm so like I have to say, Sonia, it's very like I have an audience that's all over the world, right? So a lot, I always have, I have a 4-year-old, I work full time at school. So I always have to do it like at bedtime,
Right.
7 p.m. My husband gets home from work. I'm like, see you later, and so I have a lot of people that can't watch live and I send the replay, but we had over 2,000 people sign up for this webinar.
Yay,
So
that's wonderful.
that's it is wonderful. And the people who attend are, for the most part, people who are, I would say we had a lot in New York, we had some in the Midwest, but those other people who are sleeping, they're going to be watching this in the morning. And we thank you guys and welcome to the replay.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just love things like this because, where do you see the headline that says reflex integration is going to change your kid's life? It's just not out there. And this is the best way to get the word out to really, because also this subject requires more time to explain. And anyway, thank you.
I love this
I
conversation.
love
My
that.
son wants a bath. I said no.
Yeah.
Thanks, Crystal. All right, guys. So, again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email either me or Sonia. And if you're interested in purchasing the course, you want to talk to work about it and see if they'll reimburse you. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I have some classes in my district that are just really, really difficult this year. And I mean, I'm taking the course and I'm just loving it. And I do like that it's online and that I can do it one section at a time, so and absorb it. And it's just wonderful. You've done such a wonderful job, and I just am so grateful. And the amount of children that you've helped is just huge.
Yeah, well, I so appreciate all the parents and the OTs and the PTs, and we have myofunctional therapists and vision therapists and massage therapists and so many. But honestly, it's mostly OTs.
Yeah.
Well, that's the biggest audience that we have, and they have taught me so much, especially about. Well, I just love OTs. They're so service oriented, and I'm just so grateful because I've learned so much about how these movements apply, especially to sensory issues
Hmm.
and emotional issues. So that's
Yeah.
been great. Yeah, I'm super grateful for all the ones on the front lines doing this.
So, a couple of people are just saying, where can we buy the mat? It's Neuromat. So just Google Neuromat. I don't have the link on hand real quick, but
There it is,
it,
brainabcs.com.
okay. And I think it's on sale right now for $64. So I know I'm eyeing that mat myself. I know, OTs were always like, could I make that? But I don't think you could ever make it as good as it looks right there.
It's
And on her website, she also has like videos, I think, where she shows you how to use it and do different exercises with it. So I like that too.
yeah, and it's big. It's a big mat. It's
Bigger
wide.
than, how much bigger than a yoga mat?
Um, Shoot, I want to run and get mine and see, but it's wider than a yoga mat, and I'm pretty sure it's longer. Yeah.
Okay. Someone's saying, can we use the same discount for the October course? I want to take it, but I'm not sure.
Yes. I know, but there might be another one at that time. So check in with Jamie
We,
and
we don't think that far ahead.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We'll keep you posted
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry. We just, the one discount code is,
for now.
you can always ask, but for now it's going to end on April 30th.
Okay.
Yeah. And it is very likely that we're going to have a tuition increase. I don't know when or for how much, but that's
Yeah.
what, I
Everything.
talked to someone who she teaches something similar to mine. It's a nutrition course, but it's similar in terms of like the amount of time it takes and the amount of support. She charges 900 for her class because
Well,
it's a lot. We give a lot of support and, and, our expenses are pretty high and I mean, it would be worth it even for 900, but at some point you just have to go,
yeah.
everything's more expensive and yeah.
Well,
So
and the amount of time that you put in with doing those live Q&As and everything,
yeah,
that's very time consuming.
yeah,
So,
yeah, we do. We give a lot of good support, and you just get so much out of it. So, yeah, people are surprised at how little it is when they actually know what's
it's
involved.
it's a long, involved, it's a commitment, you guys. It's definitely a commitment, but again, if it's something, if you're looking to level up and like Josh Lieberman said, learn new tricks when you are, when I don't want to say bored, but when you're kind of just so accustomed to everything and you want
Yeah,
to try something new, or you have kids that you just can't put your finger on it, this is worth it.
yeah, for sure.
So, all right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I appreciate you giving up an hour and 30 minutes of your time on a Tuesday night. Go enjoy the rest of your evening, wash your face, get your robe. I know I'm gonna. And have a have a wonderful
Drink the water.
do your rhythmic movements so that you get a good night's sleep.
Yes.
And I'll be following up with all of you guys tomorrow with the replay.
All right. Thank you, Jamie.
All right.
Thanks,
Night,
everyone.
everybody. Good night, everybody.
Good night.